Librarian Mara noticed first heavy encyclopedias stacked perfectly overnight. Security cameras, she asked. They showed nothing, just shadows, shifting books, whispering, closed. Visitors whispered stories. The libraries haunted, no one believed. Yet returned books smelled faintly of dust and something colder, like forgotten basements. A boy left a novel on the windowsill, gone by dawn, returned to its place on shelf 34, exactly aligned, spine uncracked, no explanation offered. Mara stayed late, hiding. Lights flickered. Somewhere, pages turned softly, but every aisle was empty. Only the sound of books settling themselves. Old blueprints revealed a hidden basement, never used. Mara's candle barely lit the steps. Dust swirled. Bookshelves lined the walls, unlabeled, waiting. An old librarian's portrait watched silently. His eyes followed her down aisles. His plaque read, "Keeper of Order, -1923, but no one remembered him employed. She placed a book on the floor deliberately, marked its location. By sunrise, it was perfectly slotted back onto its shelf, her mark untouched. Local children dared each other to steal a book overnight. None succeeded. Books vanished from backpacks, reappearing precisely where they belonged by morning. A researcher claimed to see floating books. The staff laughed. He never returned. His notebook filed neatly under missing persons. Page 47 was torn. Mara found the torn page, a map of the library basement, scribbled warnings, shelves shift, books obey. We are not alone here. Security guards quit frequently. Strange noises, they complained. Shelves rearranged themselves. Management shrugged. But replacement guards always left pale, eyes darting. An elderly visitor muttered, "It's not new. They've always returned themselves, if you respect them." He shuffled away before Mara could ask more. One winter, books vanished entirely. For weeks, shelves stood bare. Patrons panicked. Then, one snowstorm night, every book returned, perfect order, covered in fine, ancient dust. Mara read after hours. A book slammed shut by itself. Whispered words drifted. "Put me back." Her hands trembled. She obeyed. The library cat hissed at empty aisles, fur bristling. Sometimes its eyes tracked something, nothing visible, only faint smells of old parchment and ink. Librarian logs from 1924 warned, "Do not misplace the rare books. They return themselves, and sometimes bring company." A child disappeared between shelves once, returned an hour later, pale eyes, distant, holding a book she couldn't have reached herself. Mara checked records. Some books weren't cataloged. Ancient volumes, handwritten titles, unknown languages. They returned themselves without barcodes, without explanation. One midnight, she filmed the aisles. Frames skipped, shelves blurred, books hovered faintly, then rested back in place. The footage corrupted moments later. A scholar translated one ancient book. Pages whispered warnings. "This library remembers." He stopped sleeping. 2 weeks later, he vanished. His book returned overnight. The library's foundation stone bore strange runes, faded now. Elders refused to translate. "Best left unread," they whispered, or the shelves. Awaken. Storms rattled windows. Candles flickered. Yet inside, books arranged themselves quietly. Storm or not, the order remained perfect, unnervingly perfect. Dust never settled long. Shelves gleamed, as if unseen hands cleaned relentlessly. No staff admitted doing it. The janitor quit years ago. Children's books sang faint lullabies at night. Soft voices echoed. Books on tables, always found resting quietly on lower shelves by dawn. Mara once rearranged the fiction section. By sunrise, everything reverted. Her color-coded system undone. Alphabetical order restored. Unnatural precision. Visitors mentioned hearing faint footsteps, but the library was empty. Just creaking floorboards and distant whispers of pages turning themselves. A note appeared in Mara's drawer. Respect the shelves. They know their place. You should too. No signature. The paper smelled of ink and cold. One shelf housed forbidden books, covered in chains, but the chains rusted away. The books reshelved themselves as if nothing had happened. A missing persons poster hung by the entrance. 5 vanished visitors. The librarian marked each name in a hidden ledger, the same ledger that shelved itself nightly. Legend spoke of the founder's room, sealed for decades. They said books there, whispered constantly, returned themselves and their secrets. A window shattered one night. No wind. Books fluttered off tables, drifting like feathers, gently reshelving themselves. Glass vanished by morning. The catalog computer crashed repeatedly, yet the physical shelves remained flawless, as if books updated themselves, knowing their order instinctively. Librarian Mara stopped questioning. She shelved books with quiet reverence. At night, she whispered, "Thank you, the books." Approved. A new employee mocked the stories, rearranged shelves. The next morning, gone. His uniform folded neatly beside perfectly aligned encyclopedias. Elderly patrons warned, the library chooses its guardians. Mara wondered, had it chosen her, or was she? Next, pages sometimes turned by themselves, eyes drawn to warnings hidden between lines. We return, so should you. Dusty portraits, shifted expressions, faint smiles, watchful eyes. Librarians of the past, still present, still overseeing the order. Books never truly vanished, borrowed or lost. They returned, eventually, often in unsettling ways, sometimes before dawn, sometimes before the borrower. Mara found her own journal reshelved between ancient tomes, a note inside. You belong here now. Her heart pounded. Security footage caught shelves shifting, slight angles, microscopic movements, yet over hours, perfect alignment restored, always silent, always watching. A cracked globe in the map room spun by itself. Pages of atlases fluttered. By morning, every map restored, except one missing continent. Mara dreamed of shelves shifting, books floating, woke to find her bed surrounded by novels, their spines perfectly aligned. Her door still locked. The library clock struck 13. Books shuffled softly. Time bent here. Only the shelves stayed constant, unnervingly constant. On stormy nights, new books appeared, never purchased, old, worn, whispering forgotten languages. By morning, cataloged perfectly. Visitors whispered, "It's alive." The library didn't argue. It only organized, always organized. Mara stayed after hours again, watched silently. Books hovered, floated home. The shelves sighed in satisfaction. No one left books misplaced anymore. They knew misplacement displeased the shelves, and the shelves always corrected themselves. The building creaked, walls groaned, yet inside, flawless order reigned. The library, alive, ancient, endlessly watching. Mara whispered, "Why do books return themselves?" A faint voice answered from the stacks, "Because this place remembers, and so will you." The book rested on the tallest shelf, covered in cracked black leather. It had no title. No one touched it. Yet every visitor felt its silent presence watching them. Whispers circled the library aisles. "Don't touch that book," they warned. "It remembers." But no one explained what it remembered, or what happened to those who opened it. Old librarians avoided its shelf. New ones never lasted long. Some tried to remove it. By morning, the book was back, exactly where it belonged. Dust never settled. Children dared each other to touch its cover. None succeeded. Cold air wrapped their fingers. The book pulsed faintly, like it breathed. Even the bravest backed away. A handwritten note appeared below it. No one admitted writing it. The ink looked old. The edges curled as if aged for decades. A visitor vanished last winter. His journal remained behind. On the last page, shaky handwriting. "I saw what's inside the book. It's already written. Everything. Even me." Mara, the night librarian, grew curious. She watched the book from her desk. It never moved, but sometimes it seemed closer than before. Or maybe the shelves shifted. Cameras failed to capture it. Static filled the screens, only faint pages rustling. At dawn, the recordings erased themselves. No evidence, just uneasy silence and returned books. Local legends said the book predated the town. It came with the wind, the fog, and the foundation stone. The builder's records ended suddenly after mentioning it. Some said it contained futures. Others claimed it recorded regrets, but no one opened it. Even the bravest only approached with trembling hands and then turned away. Mara stayed after closing. Her candle flickered. The book seemed heavier somehow. The words inside, calling, though unopened, its whispers curled around her like smoke. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned, empty aisle. The whispers grew louder. The book's leather creaked softly. It waited, ancient, patient, a black mirror of possibility. Her grandmother had warned her. Some books read you instead, she'd whispered long ago. Mara thought it nonsense, until now. The air thickened. The book gleamed faintly. A patron once claimed to open it. His eyes turned black, his voice lost. He whispered nonsense for weeks, then disappeared entirely, leaving only his shadow. Rain lashed the windows. Thunder rolled. Alone in the library, Mara approached the book. Her fingers hovered above its cover, cold as stone, soft as old velvet. The whispering grew louder. Foreign syllables slithered around her ears. Her heartbeat stuttered. Her name echoed faintly. The book wanted her. Her reflection trembled on its dark surface. She opened the cover. Inside, no printed words, only parchment, smooth and blank. Then, faintly, letters bled onto the page. Her name appeared, written in crimson ink that shimmered strangely. Line after line unfurled. Childhood memories, secrets, fears, her dreams etched in delicate handwriting. The book wasn't empty, it was full of her, every detail exposed mercilessly. The pages turned themselves, her failures whispered, her betrayals gleamed like wounds, every forgotten moment scribbled in perfect order. It wasn't telling the future, it was recording her. At the final page, a space remained blank. A quill hovered beside it, unmoving. The book pulsed again, urging her hand forward. It awaited her decision. She hesitated. the whispers thickened. If she signed, the book owned her. If she refused, the book waited still. No escape, no forgetting. The library never forgot. A faint signature appeared beside her name. Another's handwriting, her grandmother's, her grandfather's. Pages confirmed, generations written inside, each claimed, each story locked in leather silence. She snapped the book shut. Instantly, the whispering stopped, the aisle darkened, the air eased. But the book pulsed faintly. It wasn't finished. It never was. Mara replaced the book. It settled into the shelf perfectly, watching, breathing, silent now, but she felt it. The unfinished page burned behind her eyes. By morning, the shelves gleamed, the book untouched. Visitors whispered, as always. Mara smiled faintly. She understood now. It didn't want to be opened. It wanted witnesses. A new sign appeared. Do not open. Her handwriting this time. The ink already faded, as if the book aged everything around it, except itself. At night, Mara dreamed of pages turning, of ink dripping, her name, her life, repeating endlessly. The library's walls sighed with old secrets. The next day, another dared approach. Young, arrogant, he chuckled at the warnings. The book pulsed, the air chilled. Mara watched, knowing how this story ended. He opened it. The same crimson ink bled onto the page. His memories, fears, sins appeared rapidly. His smile faltered. His eyes dimmed. His name etched permanently inside. By sunrise, the book sat quietly, perfectly shelved. The boy never left the library. Only a faint scent of ink and regret lingered behind. Mara dusted the shelf. The book hummed softly. Another name added, another story sealed. The library's shelves sighed contentedly. The cycle complete for now. Legends spread again. The book writes you down. Some believed, some mocked, but the smart ones, they never touched it. Some pages were better left unwritten. The library thrived, but the book remained silent, ancient, waiting for curiosity to outweigh caution, and for the next life to be inked within. Mara watched newcomers enter. She smiled faintly. Their names weren't inside yet, but the book always made space. Always. At night, shelves creaked, pages fluttered. The book whispered softly, another story, soon. Another name, soon. It never ran out of space. The library never needed to chase. Curiosity always brought them. Readers, dreamers, skeptics, all eventually drawn to the forbidden shelf. The book waited patiently. Even now, if you visit, look closely, the shelf remains. The cracked black book still breathes faintly, waiting, watching. Its final page, blank. Your name fits perfectly. The parchment rustled softly, though no wind touched it, whispering secrets of a forgotten king. Old scribes spoke in hushed voices, warning young ones never to read the hidden pages. The king's name was erased from monuments, yet ink and parchment refused to forget him. Beneath palace floors, forbidden chambers stored parchment, heavy with lost memories and silenced royal truths. Legends claimed parchment could trap souls, preserving them longer than stone, longer than bloodlines ever could. Villagers dared not approach the scriptorium where the king's name still inked itself nightly. They say the ink never dries, forever flowing, binding his tale to mortal parchment. Moonlight revealed glowing letters upon blank parchment, his forgotten story etched by unseen ghostly hands. The king's face appeared faintly across parchment corners, watching those brave enough to approach closely. Old parchment resisted aging, its texture soft, its words fresh, carrying his memory forward eternally. Scribes who tried to destroy his words vanished, their names erased alongside the forgotten king. A forbidden library stood locked, yet parchment inside whispered softly when the winds howled outside. Those who touched the sacred parchment often dreamed of crowns, swords, and unending shadowed corridors. Aldrich's forgotten portrait was gone, but his inked words lived on in every untouched parchment. The king's enemies burned his banners, yet scrolls hidden beneath floorboards survived the raging flames. Parchment hidden inside church walls pulsed softly at night, preserving the monarch's forbidden history forever. An old quill scribbled alone at midnight, Aldrich's decrees bleeding onto unwilling parchment surfaces. Children's bedtime tales warned of parchment writing itself, recording the dead king's final haunting words. A bard tried rewriting history, but parchment turned black, ink bleeding his lies away violently. The king's ghost was never seen, yet his ink appeared mysteriously upon forgotten pages. Travelers found parchment buried under ancient stones, still legible, defying time's weathered, decaying hands completely. Even distant kingdoms whispered of parchment that moved, carrying Aldrich's truth across forgotten battlefields silently. The king's crown was lost, but parchment bound his reign tighter than steel or gold. Scholars spoke of cursed parchment that rewrote itself, protecting the king's secrets from greedy hands. Ink stains bled across ancient pages, forming maps leading to Aldrich's abandoned hidden tomb. Old parchment declared, "The king's memory survives ink and parchment. Nothing buries truth permanently." Candles flickered when parchment was read, the king's whispered words echoing beyond the written lines. Monks bound Aldrich's story in leather, hiding it beneath abbey floors, safe yet restless. A merchant carried blank parchment overseas, only to discover Aldrich's name inked across its fibers. Fires consumed bookshelves, but the king's parchment remained untouched, humming faintly beneath blackened ashes. Palace walls crumbled, yet inked scrolls refused aging, their letters sharp and painfully alive. Parchment stretched tighter than chains, binding Aldrich's reign to dusty archives untouched by human hands. Some say parchment holds not words but whispers, carrying the king's memory beyond mortal lifespan. Aldrich's signature appeared upon untouched parchment, shimmering faintly beneath torchlight in forgotten libraries. Ink bled from ceilings, staining blank parchment with the king's final haunting decrees eternally. Hidden scrolls rearranged themselves, protecting the king's lost words from traitors seeking eyes constantly. Parchment inked itself anew, spelling prophecies none dared speak aloud within palace walls. The king's generals vanished, but parchment carried their oaths, bound forever in ancient ink. Nightfall brought parchment to life, words scrawling themselves across untouched surfaces, silently, relentlessly. Aldrich's coat of arms reappeared mysteriously on parchment locked away for generations unseen. Inkwells bubbled unnaturally when parchment nearby whispered the king's secret unfinished story softly. The king's forgotten army marched once more. Upon parchment, drawn soldiers breathed faintly again. Parchment edges curled inward, preserving the king's truth from prying eyes with eerie precision. Blind scribes claimed parchment guided their hands, spelling Aldrich's name in flawless royal script. The king's assassination remained unwritten, Parchment refused, accepting that final line of betrayal. Old prophecies hidden beneath church altars warned. Parchment remembers what kingdoms fail to protect. Aldrich's enemies never slept easily, haunted by parchment, spelling their secrets in hidden corners. The library floor creaked softly, parchment sliding across aisles, carrying the king's restless memory. Ancient ink glowed green beneath moonlight, breathing life into parchment that never forgot. Parchment quivered beneath trembling fingers as Aldrich's lost story inked itself line by line. Some say parchment holds more than memory, it holds shadows of the king's soul. When parchment burned, the ashes spelled his name across the marble floors below. Ink bled across ceilings, dripping onto parchment, forming ghostly letters in Aldrich's ancient voice. Parchment sheets rearranged themselves by dawn, spelling the king's name across dusty wooden shelves. The royal scribe vanished, his parchment untouched, but ink still freshly bleeding onto pages. Aldrich's ghost needed no form. Parchment carried him, whispering his power into scholars' ears. Unlit candles flickered as parchment drifted through archives, carrying whispers of a forgotten king. Parchment, stored beneath catacombs, glowed faintly, refusing to rot after centuries of hidden confinement. Ink wells never emptied beside parchment carrying Aldrich's story. A story kingdoms couldn't erase. The old map inked itself anew, marking Aldrich's hidden strongholds, forgotten by history. Villagers avoided the archives, fearing parchment that whispered their names beside Aldrich's. Parchment refused dust, its surface pristine despite centuries buried beneath palace rubble. The king's reign lost to stone, but parchment inked it alive within hidden vaults. Aldrich's throne decayed, but parchment preserved his final words, untouched by time's decay. The library's locked doors couldn't silence parchment, breathing the king's history into candlelit halls. Ink pooled upon parchment, spelling Aldrich's revenge, centuries after his silent disappearance. Some scholars vanished entirely after reading parchment that carried the king's forbidden declarations. Night scribes refused approaching parchment shelves, carrying Aldrich's unfinished coronation vows. The king's voice echoed faintly whenever forbidden parchment fluttered beneath locked glass cases. Parchment dreams bled across walls, spelling Aldrich's victories in glowing, ghostly ink. Even ashes carried his story. Parchment smoke, spelling Aldrich's name in funeral flames. In forgotten abbeys, parchment wept black ink, whispering Aldrich's silenced legacy endlessly. The king's memory pulsed through ink-stained parchment, defying history's efforts to bury him. Parchment never sleeps. Aldrich's name reappears whenever forgotten scrolls unfold themselves silently. The king's crown rusted away, but parchment carried his rule in immortal ink. Inkwells overflowed unnaturally near parchment, sealed beneath Aldrich's stone monument. Children's lullabies faded, but parchment sang the king's unfinished song softly. Parchment preserved rebellion blueprints, Aldrich's hidden plots bleeding through locked shelves. The king's whispers lived within parchment, his silent rebellion etched permanently in ink. Though Aldrich's bones turned to dust, his parchment-bound story never decayed. Scholars warned parchment that bleeds ink also bleeds memory, never letting kings truly die.